All right, y'all, here we go. Welcome back to my channel, episode 4 of the Ballpark Bomb. And as you guys can see from the last episode, we will be in St. Louis as a St. Louis Cardinals fan for this episode. And speaking of that, y'all saw how I pulled out an Ozzie Smith jersey? I kind of regretted that. Nothing against Ozzie Smith. He was a hell of a player, a great ball player, but it's just for the simple fact that I didn't see Ozzie Smith growing up. I didn't get a chance to see him. I saw Pujols. You know what I mean? I saw Albert Pujols. That was one of the first baseball players that I ever knew. And when I was getting into baseball, he was definitely the man. Like, for all my game heads out there, y'all remember MVP Baseball 2004? Remember he was on the cover? Yeah. That was the Albert Pujols that I knew and that everybody else knew. But anyway, getting straight into it. Going straight to the monuments and artifacts. First person we have up is Ted Simmons. And next we have up the great Dizzy Dean, one of the greatest pitchers of all time who once posted 30 wins in a single season. And of course we have up the great Ozzie Smith, the guy that I was just talking about, one of the greatest shortstop and obviously one of the greatest Cardinals of all time, the guy who definitely changed the game and set the bar for what it meant to be a defensive shortstop for years to come. And next we have up the great Red Shandings. And next we have up the great George Sisler, one of the greatest hitters of all time, who finished with a lifetime batting average of .340 in the top 20 out of the thousands of men that have played. And next up we have Enos Slaughter, who I'm going to tell a quick story about since he's here. Now, y'all remember the story I told about Ty Cobb when he got popped in the mouth by Hannes Wagner for talking too much? Yeah, so something very similar happened to Enos Slaughter. In 1947, when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, they eventually had to play Enos in the Cardinals, obviously. So the story goes, Enos hits a ground ball, a regular routine ground ball where he's about to be thrown at first. Now, instead of just taking it on the chin and taking his loss on that play, instead he tries to slide into first where Jackie Robinson is. Who slides in the first? Nobody slides in the first. So he slides in the first with his spikes, and he spikes Jackie Robinson's ankle, bloodied him up. Now, at this time, Branch Rickey had put it in Jackie Robinson's contract that he could not retaliate for at least 2 years. So instead of retaliating, he just told Enos that I will remember this. So 2 years later, Enos hits a single all the way to the wall that he tried to stretch into a double. Jackie Robinson is now playing second. So when Jackie Robinson gets the ball from the outfielder, and instead of tagging him on his leg, he ran up and popped him in the mouth. Tagged him in the mouth and knocked out 6 of his teeth. And Enos later claimed that he had to get gum surgery for it. And the story goes that when Jackie Robinson was walking off, he told Enos, I told you I was going to remember it. And that was that. That was the end of it. There was nothing Enos could do about it. Sorry, Enos. And next up, we got the dangerous and legendary Lou Brock. And the reason I call him dangerous is because he was the all-time base stealing leader before Rickey Henderson, and he's also a member of the 3,000 hit club. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine being so dangerous that you're almost for surely going to get on base and you're going to steal some bases too? I know for a fact pitchers hated to see him coming. And next up, I'm excited to announce we got the acknowledgement of the legendary Negro League legend, Cool Papa Bill, who is said to be the fastest man ever in Major League Baseball and Negro League Baseball. They said this man could run all 4 bases in under 12 seconds. Now, next up, we got the great Rogers Hornsby, who was second on the all-time batting average list behind Ty Cobb, but is now 4th now that they have integrated the Negro League stats as well. Now, next up, we for surely have the greatest Cardinal of all time, number 1 on the all-time hits list for the Cardinals with 3,600 hits, and ranking him 4th on the all-time hits list of all of Major League Baseball, Stan the Man Musial. And last statue but not least, we for surely have the greatest Cardinal pitcher of all time, who in 1968 had probably one of the best seasons of all pitchers in all of Major League history, posting a 1.12 ERA, 28 complete games, and 13 shutouts, won the MVP award and the Cy Young award that year, leading his team to the World Series that year, and then in Game 1 of that World Series, achieved the record for most strikeouts in the World Series with 17. Now, that's insane. Now, to put how great this season was into perspective, they say whoever loses the championship, they're never remembered. You never remember the loser of a championship. His 1968 season was so great that even though they lost the World Series, his 1968 season overshadows the team that actually won that year, which was the Detroit Tigers. I mean, when you think of the 1968 season in Major League Baseball, Bob Gibson is for surely going to come to the top of the list.
Got him! Listen to the crowd! Was his 15th strikeout. Once again, a standing ovation. A new World Series record. He got it! Struck him out! Look at the scene on the field. McCarver, the first one. Now his infielders all over him. A new world's record of 17 strikeouts.
Now, last up, since I did not see any acknowledgement of this man at Busch Stadium or around Busch Stadium, we have my own personal honorable mention of Curt Flood. And I'm going to give y'all a reason why Curt Flood is so important to the Cardinals organization and to baseball and to all of sports. Curt Flood is the reason why all of sports, not just baseball, but all of sports have what we know now as a free agency. And the reason being is because after the 1969 season, the higher-ups of the Cardinals organization just woke up one morning and decided that they wanted to trade Curt Flood to the Philadelphia Phillies. Curt Flood said, no, you can't do that. You can't just wake up and decide that you're going to trade me. My family is here. My business is here. My home is here in St. Louis. You can't just wake up without consulting me. Tell me that I'm going to the Philadelphia Phillies. And at that time, Philadelphia had a bad name amongst the African-American players of that time because it was said that Philadelphia fans were the most racist and the most aggressive as well. So at that time, black players were not too fond of going to Philadelphia. So the reason why that the Cardinals felt that they could do this is because they had what they call a reserve clause back then, which pretty much meant that the team owned you and could do whatever they want with you and could trade you or keep you for as long as they wanted to. So whenever the contract expired, it would just renew for another year. Now, I don't know if the terms of like the financial terms stayed the same, but it just meant that the team could keep you for year after year after year. And if they wanted to up and trade you to another team, they could do so. But the thing about it was you as a player were not able to be in negotiation and talks with other teams. Like you had to only remain with the team that you were with. And of course, Curt Flood fought against it and even took his case to the Supreme Court where he ultimately lost. Now, even though he lost his case in 1971, Major League Baseball definitely took notice of the case. And eventually in 1975, they did open what we know now as the free agency for baseball players, giving them the right to negotiate their contracts and sign with whoever they wanted to. Now, this whole situation did eventually lead to his retirement, but you all can see why he's so important to Major League Baseball and all of sports. Now, I don't know if the Cardinals organization or if Major League Baseball has some kind of beef with him or some kind of friction with him because he changed the game and the business of sports, but they definitely need to get over that and give this man the recognition that he deserves. Because as I say, he is the reason why Major League Baseball and every other league in all of sports has a free agency now. Definitely changed the business for sports and players. And here we have the longtime announcer of the St. Louis Cardinals, Jack Buck. And walking through the stadium, I found another wall of fame of the St. Louis Cardinals' 11 championships, making them the second winningest team in all of Major League Baseball, coming second to the Yankees, which I would be okay accepting that title because the Yankees have won 27, making them the winningest team in all of sports. So I wouldn't be too mad about that. But anyway, after going through all of the statues and the artifacts and the players and their history, one thing about the Cardinals organization that you can't deny is that they have always had an eye for talent. And it always seems like the torch was just passed down, like starting with Rogers Hornsby, then passed down to George Sisler. Well, I'm going to give him a pass on Sisler because he was actually not a St. Louis Cardinal. He was a St. Louis Brown. a team that then later went on to become the Baltimore Orioles. So I'm not sure exactly why the Cardinals take over his history and artifacts, but whatever. Okay, he's here. But anyway, Stan the Man Musial. And then it passed down to Bob Gibson. And then all of the players through the 70s and 80s, Ozzie Smith, so on and so forth. They have always had an eye for talent and always had generational players. But anyway, finally making my way into the legendary Busch Stadium. I believe that this is the third version of Busch, if I'm not mistaken. I enter in through the left field area, and right away, I'm seeing food, I'm seeing restaurants, and it led me in a direction to this area called the Ford Plaza. Now, the Ford Plaza is pretty much just that. It was a plaza of a few different restaurants and activities and like a little game store, not a game store, but a Build-A-Bear workshop, for your kids. I know that was very popular back in the day. I'm not sure if it's as popular now, but they had this family pavilion there, which had an indoor playpen, and then on the upstairs of that, I think was just a restaurant. I'm not for sure because I didn't go in. But anyway, all of that stuff was kind of like on the outer parts of the stadium, if you can get what I'm saying. Like, it was through the gates, but it was more so like an introduction, going through the Ford Plaza. Because once you turn that corner and actually go in the undergrounds of the stadium, to each level and stuff like that, you saw that they had restaurants everywhere. Now, if you can remember my last episode when I went to Comerica Park, that was one of the things that I took from the most, is that they just had food everywhere. Now, Busch Stadium was the same, but more. And the reason why I say it was more and why I think they got Comerica Park beat on restaurants is because Comerica Park, I saw they had restaurants everywhere, but it was more so I saw some of the same restaurants. Like every time I turned the corner, it was maybe the same 4 or 5 restaurants that I saw around the other corner, with the exception of a few sit-down restaurants. Busch Stadium, however, man, they had some of the same restaurants too, but for the most part, they had food everywhere and all of it was different. So much to the point that when I actually did stop and buy something, like buy some food, I had buyer's remorse in a sense. Like, you ever buy something and then you get home with it and you wish you would have bought something else, got something else instead? Yeah, that was what I did with my food. So I bought, I think I stopped at the Big Chicken place, and it was good. It was good, no doubt. But then somebody sat next to me with a hot dog and it had a fried egg on it. And I didn't even know they had that. I didn't even see that. You get what I'm saying? That's the point that I'm trying to make of how much different foods they offer. It's so much stuff in there that you can't see everything until somebody else has it. Then, not to mention the sit-down restaurants. Now, here I am finally making it to my seat and getting a good look at the ballpark. Of course, you see Big Mac land over there where Mark McGwire used to smack all of his home runs, especially in that legendary 1998 season where he set the record at 70 home runs for the season. And here's my ticket for y'all. I sat in the infield box, close to the field as I usually do, and I paid about $35 for this ticket. But I believe that was because it was on a Monday and they were playing the Colorado Rockies, so do with that what you will. And now for the starting lineup of the St. Louis Cardinals.
St. Louis Cardinals. Leading off, playing right field, number 21, Lars Newbar. Batting second, designated hitter, number 48, Ivan Herrera. Batting center, playing left field, number 41, Alec Burleson. Batting fourth, playing first base, number 40, Wilson Contreras. Batting fifth, playing shortstop, number 0, Mason Wynn. Batting sixth, playing third base, number 16, Nolan Gorman. Hitting seventh, playing second base, number 25, Thomas Sajasi. Batting eighth and catching, number 43, Pedro Pajes. Batting ninth, playing center field, number 11, Victor Scott II. Starting pitcher tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals, number 39, Miles Michaelis.
Coming out on the mound today for the St. Louis Cardinals, we got Miles Michaelis, who's been kind of having an up and down season and trying to get his groove back. But we're going to hope that he does great tonight. And he starts us off with a first pitch strike, which is always a good sign, as I usually say. And he actually ended up finishing the game with 3 strikeouts, 4 hits, and 2 earned runs, which is a little better than what he's been doing. But honestly, y'all, I expected this game to be a slugfest. But I actually ended up being a pitcher's duel, which from a fan point of view could be kind of boring. But, for the love of the game, I guess you could say it was a good game. Now, coming out on the mound today is Chase Dolander, who you just saw with the strikeout. And he actually ended up with about 5 strikeouts and only 1 earned run, which was a little better than Miles McCullough's. And honestly, that was a lot better for him than he's been doing in the past because, as I said, I was expecting the slugfest from both sides. I was expecting him to give up at least 2 or 3 home runs. But he gave up none, so kudos to him. He had a great game. Now, as I said before, y'all, this game was a little boring with the action spread across the game here and there. But here is Alec Burleson in the 3rd inning with a single to right, bringing in Victor Scott for the first run of the game. Now, in the 7th inning, the Rockies tried to turn up. Well, they did turn up, and they took the lead. And here you see Mickey Moniak with a single to center, bringing Jordan Beck to 3rd. And on the very next play, you had Warming Bernabel grounding out to 2nd, which brought Mickey Moniak to 2nd and Jordan Beck home, up in the score 1-1. Then following that, you had Brenton Doyle with a hard single to center, which brought Mickey Moniak all the way home, up in the score 2-1. And those were the 2 runs that Miles McCullough gave up for the game, making it all the way to the 7th and eventually getting taken out. Now, in the next inning, which was the 8th inning, the Cardinals struck back and turned up on the Rockies, starting Nolan Gorman off with a walk, followed by a single to center by Tommy Sagasi, putting Nolan Gorman in scoring position, bringing him to 2nd. And Tommy Sagasi actually had the best game of everybody, finishing the game 3 for 4 that night. And here it is, we got Brendan Donovan coming up to the plate, who actually pinch hit this game and had the crowd going wild. I mean, St. Louis must really love this dude, and they knew he was about to do something special because he had fans going crazy and screaming to the top of their lungs as soon as they announced his name, and you're about to see why. Now, that was some legendary stuff right there. You come in, pinch hit, get a double to right, really triple, but it's that fielder choice stuff. You get a double to right and bring in 2 runs to take the lead. Come on now, can't beat that. Now, here it is, the Cardinals closing out the game, and the Colorado Rockies fighting and making an attempt to come back with this single by Warming Bernabel, making him the tying run and giving themselves a chance. But then we have this. Cardinals staying alive with a pop-up to the catcher to close out the Rockies 3-2, and they sent us home with a victory. So we are now 4-0. Now the next day, I finally went and got myself something to eat at the Kingside Diner, which I actually had a hard time doing because I spent a long time trying to figure out what exactly is St. Louis type food or St. Louis style food, and I really could never get a clear answer. So I just decided on this here. Now what this is that I ordered is called a king size slinger, which had a hash brown base, a hamburger patty on top of that, and eggs on top of that with beans on top of that and cheese, beans and cheese on top of all of it. And to be honest, y'all, I really ordered it because, like I said, I couldn't figure out what exactly was St. Louis type of food. So I ordered that thinking that that was probably the best option. And it was good, don't get me wrong, but I'll probably never eat that again. Now, my total for the king size slinger plus a bowl of oatmeal came out to about $28 plus a $7 tip, so $35 total. Now, right after that, I immediately went to the City Museum and got caught in the rain a little bit, but I did as much as I could to stay out of it. What I learned about the City Museum is that it actually used to be like an old shoe factory, I believe the guy told me. It was a 10-story shoe factory that they used to make like a huge playpen out of. A huge playpen that appeals to, of course, your children and so on and so forth. But within this playpen and all of these levels to this playpen, you have a bunch of artifacts about the city. which is a great idea, obviously. Great idea to educate the youth and teach them about where they're from and where they live and other things that occurred in the world, because it wasn't just artifacts about the city. It was other things as well. Like you have this aquarium here, for example, which was still full of tunnels and mazes for your kids to go through. And they also had some fish tanks that you could put your hands in as well. Then on one level, they had something called like a mystery museum or auditorium with like a bunch of weird artifacts. Y'all ever seen that movie Loading in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp? Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, like the whole theme of that. Then they had another level. I think this was on the same level, just a different section. So for my bug and insect lovers, they had a section for y'all to come check out, for y'all to see all of the bugs and the evolution of bugs over time, which was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not into bugs and insects myself, but, you know, I do like watching things grow and evolve. So as long as it's through the glass, I can watch from a distance. Then they had a crystal collection for all my crystal lovers, the world's biggest draws. I was also told that St. Louis is where they created the hot dog, so they had a statue in honor of that. They had Egyptian artifacts with tunnels and mazes full of hieroglyphics for you to check out. They even had an art room for you and your kids to go and paint and do some arts and crafts. Now, I kind of stood from a distance because there was a dad and daughter in there, and I didn't want to just be standing there recording them like a creep. Now, the most interesting part, or one of the most interesting parts, is they have a 10-story slide that you can slide down on, going from the top all the way to the bottom of the facility. Now, I know it's a little dark and y'all can't see, but the top was actually closed off due to the rain outside, so we were only able to get on at the 5th level, which was cool too. Now, I did get a chance to slide down on the slide, but honestly, I'll never do that again. They told me that I could fit in the slide and I would be able to slide down with no problem, but as soon as I started sliding down, I hit my knee on like the barrier that kind of protects you and keeps you in bounds of the slide. And I was pretty much ready to go after that. I was starting to show my age. So, yeah. But overall, I had a great time. It was a great experience. St. Louis was a great experience. I had a great time at the game. Like I said, it was a little boring, but we still remain undefeated. The city treated me good, and there's not too much more you can ask for. So to end this video and to end you guys off, I would like to show some of the beautiful architecture of St. Louis. These are some of the houses in the neighborhood that I was staying, or where my Airbnb was at. And I just had to stop and admire some of these places, or well, all of them really. They were all beautiful. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time on the next episode.